Hey guys, Canoopsy here, and this is the Apple Watch. The model I have here is a 42mm stainless steel model with a black sport band, and I've been using an Apple Watch for about a month now, and it's given me time to understand exactly what the device does, what it doesn't do, and if you should buy one. I see the Apple Watch as a combination between the iPod Nano 6th generation and a more traditional fine watch. It has all the features of the iPod Nano and has a build quality and luxurious feel of a normal watch. Of course, the Apple Watch has many features that the iPod doesn't have, such as connectivity to your phone, but it still carries over the basic looks and functionality that the iPod introduced. The Apple Watch doesn't really do too much different from other smartwatches on the market, but it does have a different design, a large range of customizability, and the software isn't really anything new, but does have a much more refined experience and a few useful features. Speaking of the design, it's one of my favorite parts of the Apple Watch. Some don't like the rectangular display, but I think it's great for reading text and notifications. The design of the Apple Watch is very sharp, seamless, and refined, and up close you can see some of the amazing detail that went into the Apple Watch, such as the ridges in the digital crown or the engraving on the back. Going around the Apple Watch, we have a friends button to contact your friends quickly, as well as a digital crown used for scrolling and as a home button. We also have a water-resistant speaker and microphone that both work great. At the bottom we have all of the sensors, as well as some detailed engravings about your specific Apple Watch. The Retina Display of the Apple Watch really looks great, especially outdoors, and you won't be able to see any individual pixels whatsoever in daily use. And since the display is force touch, if you press and harden it within an application, it'll bring up a variety of actions that you can perform. The sport band on my model feels very comfortable and soft, and it barely feels like you're even wearing it. It's also sweat resistant, so you don't have to worry about that either. Putting the sport band on for the first time is a little bit difficult and confusing, but after you've done it a few times, it's very easy to figure out, and it doesn't fall off at all because of the small slot at the very end for the excess band. One of my favorite and one of the most unique features of the Apple Watch is a digital crown. It can be used for scrolling through large lists, and it's very useful and it feels very fluid, and it's a lot like using a scroll wheel on a mouse. It just feels natural. If you briefly push it in, it will bring you back to the main screen, and if you hold it for a few seconds, Siri will pop up and answer any of your questions. Another way to trigger Siri on the Apple Watch is to say, "Hey Siri," when the watch face is on, but most of the time Siri won't be able to answer many of your questions and commands. It can only answer basic questions and commands, but sometimes it will even ask you to use your iPhone to answer questions using Siri, which totally eliminates the convenience of using it on the Apple Watch. Clicking the Friends button once brings you to a list of user programmed friends that you contact often, and if you hold in the button, it brings you to a menu where you can turn off the device, put on power reserve mode, or you can lock it. If you double click the button, it brings up Apple Pay. Once you select a friend from the list, you can either call them, send them a message, or if they have an Apple Watch, you can draw them a sketch, you can poke them a few times, or you can send them your heartbeat. The last option is just a little bit creepy, and I've been sending my heartbeat to some random person on Reddit. Whether or not they appreciate it is an entirely new question in itself. When it comes to watch faces, there's a huge amount of customizability on the Apple Watch. There's things like the Mickey Mouse watch face, the modular watch face, and there's motion watch faces that feature things like flowers, butterflies, or a jellyfish. The sad thing is though, is if you get bored of these faces, there's no third-party options. Hopefully Apple will decide to add third-party watch faces in the near future, but for now we're stuck with these ones. Not like they're really bad at all, they are really well designed watch faces. There's also glances on the Apple Watch, which gives you access to quick information when you swipe up from the bottom of the watch face, and these are actually very useful, and sometimes I found myself using these glances more than I've been using the actual apps on the home screen. Performance on the Apple Watch is usually very fluid and smooth, but sometimes you will experience a few drops in frames and a bit of lag here and there when you're closing applications, but the Apple Watch does have pretty good hardware inside of it. The only downside of the software so far from what I've experienced is the third-party apps. There's a massive selection of third-party apps for the Apple Watch, but the only problem is that they actually run off of your phone and not on the Apple Watch. So they're basically streaming content from your phone to the watch, which makes them very slow to start and very slow to update information. The apps are pretty well designed, but it's really hard to decide if you should use them or not. For example, should I really be making calculations or browsing Instagram on my Apple Watch when I can just take out my phone and do it a whole lot quicker? It's a little bit of an iffy situation, and I hope developers will change this later by adding more functionality to the Apple Watch applications. To go through every single aspect of what the software can do, it would take forever, but it pretty much does everything other smartwatches can do, except everything's a little bit more refined, and there's a huge selection of applications. Lastly, the battery life of the Apple Watch is actually not bad at all. It will definitely get you through a full day, and if you want to see a more in-depth video, I did make a full separate video on this, and I will have the link in the description down below. But basically, you'll be able to get through an entire day, or maybe a second day, no problem. When the time actually comes to charge your Apple Watch, all you have to do is place it on the inductive charging pad, and there you go. It's super easy and quick to do. To conclude, this has been my review of the Apple Watch. It's a great smartwatch with a good design, functionality, and customization. The only downside in my opinion is the third-party apps. Another potential downside is the price. The Apple Watch starts at $349 for the sport model in 38mm and goes all the way up to $17,000 for the most expensive model. Quite expensive for a smartwatch. Besides the price and the third-party apps, the Apple Watch is definitely the best choice you have if you have an iPhone and you want a smartwatch. You definitely do not need the Apple Watch at all, but if you want it, go out and buy it. It's a fun device to play with, and it's a look at the future of wearable technology coming from Apple. If you enjoyed my review of the Apple Watch, be sure to leave a like down below, comment any thoughts you have on the Apple Watch, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching.